Morning, church. So this past Sunday, we were looking at the message that God was calling us to about sharing our story and being a witness to Christ. And so just going to read some verses, and I want to talk about that for just a moment. If someone asks you about your hope, actually I'm reading from 1 Peter chapter 3. If someone asks you about your hope as a believer, always be ready to explain it. But do this in a gentle and respectful way. Keep your conscience clear. Then if people speak against you, they will be ashamed when they see what a good life you live because you belong to Christ. So some very practical, applicable stuff as we're talking about our faith and our walk with Jesus. And so I wanted to kind of give a little follow-up to this, which a young man after the first service came and asked me, he said, I want to share my story, but I really don't know how to share my story. So I gave him a little outline, which I did share in the 11 o'clock service as well. And so I'm going to do it right here so everybody can hear a way to do that. So here's what I suggest for everyone to do. If you know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you have a Jesus story. And it is about your life and what he's done for you. And you need to be ready to share that story. So the best thing to do is to sit down and type it out, write it out, however that works for you. And the way that it should be done, I give it a format and a way for you to work on it, because if someone is engaging you in conversation, the best thing for you to do is, and this is something that I've worked on for a long time, should be 3 minutes or less. No one's going to sit there and listen to you talk for an hour to tell your story, right? So if you can get your story to 3 minutes or less, then you can pretty much do that in any conversation that you have. So the way to do that would be to write it out, and here's the simple format. I would say to you to boil down your life before Jesus to a 30 to 45 second portion of your conversion story. The reason for that is that we don't want to glorify our life in sin. What we're trying to let people know is that we were jacked up, broken, and needed help. The second part of the story is how we met Jesus. When did you get saved and how did that happen? That should take like a minute to a minute and 15 seconds. So here we have now the life before Christ, meeting Christ as your Savior, and the personal encounter, personal relationship with God begins. And then the last portion of that time frame should be about your life since you met Jesus. Because those of us that are Christians know that as we've met Jesus, that's not the end. That's the beginning of a new story. And that story is the story that matters, because now we're living our life for God, for the purpose of the kingdom. And so it's just brief, meeting, little more content, and then since should be the majority part of our story. So I'll help you just write it out. When you first write it, it's probably long. Then you can begin to condense it down and refine it. And as you read it and you yourself put together your little story, that snippet of that God moment in your life, you'll be ready to give it to people in that context. And you don't have to quote it verbatim, but as you do that, it refines that in you and you're ready to share it with others. So let's share our story with someone today. God bless you. Let's be His church.